right, welcome back to Agree to Disagree Sports Talk with Zach and Booge, and I am Booge.
And I'm Zach.
We want to welcome everybody back to our second episode. The first episode was a little long, but it went amazing. We had so much fun.
It was a blast.
It really was. We got into a lot of information, got into a lot of headlines. We previewed this upcoming week. We reviewed the last week. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to add a segment or two here. So
cut down some time. I know a lot of you have brought that to our attention, which we do agree.
Exactly.
Got a little carried away. The excitement got to us.
Hey, we agree with that. We don't disagree. We agree with that.
Agree.
So without further ado, let's go into it. Let's first review our last episode. We picked some scores. You can go listen to that on our previous episode, which is now on iTunes.
Made it big, folks.
We are going to tweet out the link. You can search us on iTunes at Agree to Disagree Sports Talk. You can do that in the podcast section. We are very excited about that. This episode will be on iTunes as well as our YouTube channel, which is Agree to Disagree. Also our Twitter and all that. We'll have that at the end of this episode as well. But let's get to our previous episode. Zach, you were 8 for 3. 8 for 3. You had a great week. Me, not so much. I was 6 and 5. It looked like Auburn's season last year.
Ooh.
Anyway,
shots
are fired within a minute and a half of the episode. I love that. I love that. All
Starting out fast. Don't call us Tennessee.
Oh, no! Another shot. Another
no.
one. Oh, I love it. Okay, it's time for the headlines. Florida, LSU postponing the game, possibly canceling it. Zach, what do you think?
Now, this has really just been a huge topic in the sports world, especially in SEC country where we are in the heart of. The Tennessee fans are very upset.
Very.
I mean, everybody's very upset, but this could affect them and their chance to make it to Atlanta representing the Eastern Division.
In which with Tennessee, I mean, it's been forever. It's been decades. Has it not?
It's been a while.
It's been a long time since they've gotten into that game.
Now, see, they could still make it. I mean, it's in their hands on how their season goes. But if they were to lose another game, say to Alabama this coming week, which we'll talk about later, and say that Florida, wins out, and they don't make this game up with LSU, and then despite Tennessee beating the Gators would go to Atlanta. So, and also this could also affect the West Side, along with LSU's chances of going to Atlanta to represent the West. So there's a lot riding on the line. So I could see the anticipation and trying to get this done.
I have a few questions for the Florida LSU postponing announcement. Number one, why did they wait until a Thursday to postpone the game? We knew about Hurricane Matthew weeks in advance. We knew it was going to hit the Florida coastline, go up through North Carolina, South Carolina. We knew all that. Why did they wait until Thursday? I don't understand it. Announce it Monday, Tuesday, even Wednesday to give you enough time to reschedule the game. Now they've backed themselves into a hole.
They wanted to monitor, where the storm was going to go, what parts it was going to hit, the impacts that it could have. They just wanted to monitor that and wait and see, if it was something that they needed to postpone, what they really needed to do with that. So I do understand why they waited a little bit, but the way that they've handled this, I think they should have come to an agreement on a new date, already, because this game has to be played. It has a significant impact on the SEC season, and I do think that it will get played. I think that it's going to take Commissioner Sankey to really step up and use his power that he does have as commissioner.
Well, I definitely agree with some of what you said, and I do disagree with the announcement that they made on Thursday. They should have made an announcement on Wednesday, maybe even Tuesday. They knew it was going to hit Florida. They did not know how hard it was going to hit, but they did know it was going to hit Florida. So they easily could have done that just to avoid any type of postponing / canceling. Now they can avoid that because they announced it on Thursday. They could have rescheduled it for Monday or Tuesday. Georgia rescheduled their game on Sunday. Go to a neutral site. Go to another field. They don't have to play in Gainesville. Was Florida avoiding this game? No, I don't think Florida was avoiding this game. McElwain wants to play LSU. He knows this is a must play. He knows he has to beat LSU. If he doesn't, then that might raise some questions about him, and it will also answer some questions about Coach O as well. Now, LSU's AD Joe Alleva rules out November 19th for a makeup date. He said, and this is quote, "It's going to be very difficult to reschedule," unquote, this game. As of now, I don't see a date they could reschedule. I mean, Florida has an off week, but LSU's playing somebody. LSU has an off week, but Florida's playing somebody, and that off week is right before Alabama's game.
Now, I do think that since, they have waited and didn't really handle this properly, I do think that they need to go ahead and on November 19th play this game because LSU, they do have a home game. I understand they do want to play that home game, but this is very significant. Florida has a home game against Presbyterian. LSU, as I just said, they host South Alabama. So I do think they should just go ahead. They have money. Both of these schools have money. We know that. Pay the buyout fee to these schools and go and play this game.
I agree with you there that this game needs to be played. Bottom line, it needs to be played. It has to be played.
And I do think it will be played.
Yeah, it definitely needs to be played. All right, baseball playoff update. The baseball playoffs continue. That's great and all, but can we get back to our football?
Toronto Blue Jays win the ALDS against the Rangers 3-0, and they will face the Cleveland Indians, who just recently beat the Boston Red Sox 3-0. And then the other side, the NLDS, the Nationals and Dodgers are tied 1-1, and they await the winner of the Cubs-Giants. Cubs are up 2-0.
Let's take a moment. Tim Tebow. I have so much respect for Tim and his family. He's a great man. He's a great Christian. He can do whatever he wants to do. He's just that type of athlete. The home run speaks volumes about how athletic he really is. His first up to bat, he hit a home run. A home run.
It was so impressive. He gets up there and the first pitch he sees knocks it out of the park. And that just shows his natural God-given ability. And something recently that hit the news last week, he was having another intro league game with the Mets organization and gets hit by a pitch. So right when he gets hit by that pitch, he charges the mound. So everybody thinks, wow, Tim Tebow is about to get in a fight with this pitcher. So he charges the mound and he offers instant forgiveness to this pitcher. The pitcher, when Tebow is approaching him, gets his fist up, trying to defend himself. But Tebow's just running up there to say, hey, I forgive you for hitting me with the pitch. Now, how cool is that? That's something you do not see in today's sports.
It definitely speaks volumes about his character. Very nice guy, and I love his family too.
That's one thing that Tim Tebow has done throughout his career is using the platform in sports to give glory to God, and I respect him a great deal for who he is as a man of Christ.
And so do I. Let's get into the review segment here. First game was, in my opinion, one of the best halves of Alabama's 2016 season. Alabama and Arkansas. It was a great first half. The second half was a little slow. Defense needs to step up and stop the long ball. That's their weakness. It's not the running. It's not the quarterback sneaks or anything like that. It's the long ball. It's been like that for years. Every time Alabama has faced a quarterback that can actually throw it, they've had challenges with them. Now, they did beat Clemson last year with Deshaun Watson, but then again, he had over, 400 yards in that game? I mean, it's crazy. Nick Saban needs to coach his defense, needs to coach his defensive coordinator to stop that long ball. Jalen Hurts is the reason to Alabama's success. He's very calm. That's the first time I've seen him. I've actually watched him. In previous games, I'm more focused on the defense, but this game, I really was focused on Jalen Hurts. He's so calm. For a freshman, very calm. He knew what he needed to do. He went out there and did it. He's a great runner. He's a great passer. Now, yes, he does need to focus on connecting with those open receivers. We saw some of that last week and 2 weeks ago as well. The only other thing, the defense needs to step up. If the defense steps up, nobody, and I'm calling it now, nobody will be able to beat Bama.
Yeah, it was an interesting game. Coming in the game, I thought that Arkansas would keep the score a little bit closer. But if you look at Arkansas, you look at some stats in this game, Arkansas put up 473 yards on the Tide, 400 yards being through the air. So like you said, Alabama's pass defense is a little bit shaky at times. What they do well is scoring off of the turnovers, and that is one thing that really helps out the young star Jalen Hurts, is that he's got his defense that can score and help him out. Arkansas, they were not effective running the ball whatsoever. 73 yards, really struggled getting to some rhythm with their running backs. Williams, but like I said, Allen didn't have a real bad game. He threw 400 yards, and he threw it 48 times. If you would have told me they would have thrown the ball 48 times, I would have laughed. Alabama's defense forced 5 turnovers. Like you said, Booge, Jalen Hurts was very, very good, and Kiffin did a great job of utilizing his feet and getting him in some opportunities to run for some yards. And Damian Harris stepped up very nicely for the Tide, carrying it 13 times, 122 yards. So very, very good balanced attack by the Crimson Tide offense this week.
Now let's go into Miami versus Florida State. Now, if you remember last episode, I called Florida State to lose, and Miami, I called them 28-21 Miami.
And Booge was quoted by saying Miami football is back.
That is true. I still believe that. I still believe Miami's football program is back. Look, it was a block kick. Miami did nothing. They didn't lose the game. The game was lost. The game was won by Florida State. They got out there and blocked the kick.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Florida State beat them. I think that the Hurricanes beat the Hurricanes.
Yeah, Mark Richt, I still think he's doing great things at Miami. I think he's a great fit for Miami. I love Mark Richt. I loved him at Georgia, too. I think he's a really good fit at Miami. Jimbo Fisher, he's just glad to get out of there with a W.
They really needed that game, Boosh. Florida State was in big need of that win. If they would have lost that, they would have had 3 losses, and we're not used to seeing a Jimbo Fisher coach team at this point in the season with 3 losses, so that was a big victory for the Seminoles.
Yeah, it definitely was a must-win for him. Mississippi State Auburn. First off, I was surprised to see that Auburn fans made it to the stadium. I was a little worried that they wouldn't be able to find it. Secondly, anybody see Gus? I think it was mid-third quarter to late third quarter that I even saw Gus. If I was new to football and I knew nothing about Auburn football and I watched the first 3 quarters of the game, I would think the offensive coordinator was the head coach.
And I think this was a nice victory for the Tigers. They really needed this to see some improvement out of this offense. I think each week what Gus and Coach Lashley, offensive coordinator, want to see is another step taken forward and some consistency and some growth and improvement from this young Tiger offense. We saw White didn't throw it much, but when he did, he was pretty good. 14 of 18. 204 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But the it factor, the guy who really brought it in that game for the Tigers was Petway, backup running back. Went in there to spell an injured Kerryon Johnson. 39 carries, 169, and 3 touchdowns. He looked very good. And the young wide receiver core, we saw them look pretty good in this game. Tony Stevens, Marcus Davis, Kyle Davis, Darius Slayton really improved.
Yeah, the key to the game was, in my opinion, was State's missed field goal. I think that they drove the ball down, but before that, Auburn went, they actually threw an interception on their first drive. Their first play, I was listening to it on the radio, and they said Auburn's first play, they cannot lose yards. And Auburn's first play of this game, they actually lost yards. They went on to throw an interception. State drove down the field, had a chance to score. They missed the field goal. I think that was the key to the game. White was very effective on offense, and Auburn's defense. Auburn's defense was also a key difference in the game as well.
All right, now we're going to get into one of the, if not the most exciting game of the weekend. Tennessee taking on Texas A&M at College Station. Booge, start us off.
Yeah, Tennessee was cooking up another comeback. They actually came back at the very end. They lost it in double overtime. They weren't able to finish. Texas A&M's quarterback is the real deal. I really do think he has a chance to go to New York. I honestly do believe that.
He's playing very well, and you look at the stats, holy yards. There were so many yards by both teams. Tennessee outgaining the Aggies, 684 with the Aggies with 592. Tennessee, 7 turnovers. Dobbs, this guy, I can't say enough about him. I think he is a very good player, the way that he battles adversity. I don't think he's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the nation. I think think that he is a very great leader, probably one of the best guys that will go out and face adversity and do whatever it takes for his team to win. 28 of 47, 398 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Also caught a touchdown pass, which, offensive coordinator throwing up some
trickery there.
Some trickery. Kamara, he had an excellent game. 18 carries, 127 yards, 2 touchdowns, 8 receptions, 161 yards, and 1 touchdown in games. And we saw the heart that this Tennessee team has this past weekend. We're used to seeing them coming back in games in the second half. But this was a whole new task. We thought that they were down and out and that there was no way that they could come back to this type of deficit. But they do what Tennessee has done all year. They found a way to make it a game in the second half. And part that Malik Foreman, defensive back for the Vols, had to punch that ball out. Travion Williams, that touchdown late in the game, would have been touchdown if it would not have been for Foreman's effort to punch that out and to give Tennessee some momentum.
Texas, Oklahoma. First off, Texas cannot keep allowing 45 points per game. If they keep doing that, it's over for Texas. That cannot be the standard. I'm sorry. You just can't allow 45 points per game.
Now, the big headline going into this game for the Texas Longhorns was head coach Charlie Strong deciding to call the defensive plays and take over that defense. We thought that we would see, a different look out of the Longhorns defense, and we did at the beginning of the game. If you were watching it the first quarter and a little bit in the second quarter, they were playing pretty well. They were making Baker Mayfield struggle and making him confused, showing him some odd fronts, some different things that Coach Strong loves to do to opposing quarterbacks. And if we look at Oklahoma, 292 yards on the ground. Very impressive by the running backs for the Sooners, and that ultimately led to Mayfield being able to make some plays to the air. And boy, did D.D. Westbrook have a game. 10 receptions, 232 yards, 3 touchdowns. And like I said a moment ago about the running game for the Sooners, Perine, 35 carries, 214 yards, 2 touchdowns. And what a game from him. And for Texas, quarterback Buechele was 19 of 36, 245 yards, 3 touchdowns. Only 1 interception. He is a great young quarterback. The Texas fans have been waiting for a guy to come in, really excel at that position, and he has done that. I see great things from him in the future. And the wide receiver game for Texas has been struggling. Someone in that unit needs to step up and help out their quarterback. And on the ground, Foreman, 149 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a great game.
Texas almost had a Tennessee-type ending. Mayfield fumbles the ball, but the Sooners recovered a punt, leaving Texas 20 seconds to play. But Texas didn't drink the orange Kool-Aid at the beginning of the game, I guess. Now we're going into a brand new segment, what we like to call...
Who Got After It?
Who got after it? We're going to pick 2. We're going to pick 2 or 3. How many? Were we doing 2 this week, 3 this week? God help us, because I've already picked 2. That's fine. Z, you can pick 2 or 3. I'll pick 2. We like to say who got after it. What individual player who got after it? We're not looking at a star. We're not looking at a Heisman watch. We're just looking at one individual player for this past Saturday's game that got after it. Z, lead us into that.
The first one that comes to mind is quarterback for the Washington Huskies, Jake Browning, 22 of 28, 304 yards, 6 passing touchdowns. Then he goes 6 carries, 21 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns to help lead his Washington Huskies to snap a 12-game losing streak against Oregon. Oregon has not been good this year, but that's a big monkey to get off your back by beating someone who has beaten you 12 times in a row. So, Jake Browning, you got after it. That was my first one. Booj, who got after it? Number 1 in your book.
Cameron Petaway.
Picking an Auburn guy, okay.
Yeah.
Change of heart this week?
Yeah, Cameron Petaway. 39 carries, 169 yards, whatever. 3 touchdowns, which is pretty impressive. He was filling in for the injured Kerryon Johnson. Did he get after it? Maybe. Okay, yeah. Cameron Petaway definitely got after it in that game versus Mississippi State. Z, that was my first one. What is your second pick?
My who got after it pick number 2, Tennessee running back Alvin Kamara.
Oh, that's a good one.
Back up, filling in for the injured Jalen Hurd. I think he is a very talented back, Kamara. I really like his change of pace. He brings a speed element. Hurd's a more power back. Hurd is a speedster. Kamara carried the ball 18 times, 127 yards, 2 touchdowns, 8 receptions receptions, 161 yards, 1 touchdown, and he got after it. I was impressed with what he was able to do, and he really changed that game for the Volunteers.
Listeners, I hear what you're asking. You're asking me, Booch, who got after it? Well, I'm going to tell you who got after it. My second pick is Jalen Hurts. Starting quarterback for the Alabama Crimson Tide. He had a fantastic game this past Saturday. He was very calm. He was collected. In that type of environment at Arkansas, you have to be calm. You have to be collected, and he was. He knows how to lead a team. His team is behind him. They're behind him all the way. Jalen Hurts, you got after it, my friend.
My third and final pick for who really got after it has to be Oklahoma receiver D.D. Westbrook. Young man, you got after it. He has been battling a hamstring injury first part of this season. It wasn't until last week where we fully saw him, getting healthy, becoming himself. And against the Texas Longhorns, 10 receptions, 232 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was a big weapon on the outside for Baker Mayfield. D.D. Westbrook, you got after it.
All right, now it's time for what I've been waiting for, and Z, what you've been waiting for. It's time to preview tomorrow's games. Z, what you got?
I think this is a very interesting game. I think it'll be a fun game to watch. This Tennessee offense, what Josh Dobbs does, what Kamara presents. This offense is the type of offense that has given Alabama problems in the past. A quarterback that's mobile, hard to bring down, that can throw a little bit, that can run, and also a very fast, elusive running back. They can give them problems. It'll be interesting to see what they can do against this Alabama defense. And I think offensively, Jalen Hurts and the Crimson Tide are going to have to take some shots down the field, long passes, trying to expose those young corners by the injury-ridden Tennessee defense.
Yeah, if Alabama played like they did in the first half of last week's game, for the entirety of tomorrow's game, I'm calling it. They win by a landslide. Jalen Hurts, as you said, Z, has to throw the long ball and be accurate. He has proven that he can throw it, but he hasn't proven that he can be accurate in throwing it.
So it will be interesting to see how Jalen Hurts responds to that pressure by the defensive line of Tennessee, and if he can throw the ball quick and accurate to his players downfield. And now we are staying in the SEC, moving on to Ole Miss versus Arkansas. Booge, start us off.
It's Chad Kelly versus Austin Allen. Can Austin Allen recover from the beating he got from Alabama's defense last week? If so, maybe Arkansas can come out with a W. Austin Allen had the best game of the year. No, not the best game of the year. I'm calling it. It was the best game of his career last week against Alabama. If he can't recover from last week's beatdown by the Tide's defense, Chad Kelly beats Austin Allen this week.
I think it all starts with Chad Kelly. How he plays will determine the success of this Ole Miss offense and ultimately the Ole Miss team. We heard some issues with him over this past weekend about him getting in the altercation at his brother's football game. He came out today by saying that he regrets what he did and that if it happened again, he would handle it differently. We have seen a change in his attitude. Some would say we've seen a change since he's come to Ole Miss from his issues at Clemson. I do believe that we have seen some change, and Hugh Freeze has done a good job with him. But we're seeing a little bit of a flashback here of him with his issues, going out and handling that situation and in a way that he should not have. I think if he goes out and performs the way that we know that he can, that Ole Miss has a great chance of beating Arkansas.
Miami versus University of North Carolina. Mark Richt has done great things at Miami this year. That loss to Florida State, it hurt. It really did. A block kick to end the game, that always hurts. But will that factor in this game against UNC? They have to be mentally prepared and go out and show the football world that Miami is in fact back. I said it last week. Miami is back, and they're going to show it this coming Saturday.
And for this week, North Carolina can get back to their pass-happy offense. Obviously, last week, if you watched the game, they were playing in a monsoon due to the effects of the hurricane. This week, weather, should be fine. North Carolina can get back to throwing the ball all over the place with their quarterback Trubisky and utilize star receiver Switzer's speed. Their defense has been bad, allowing 425 yards per game, 228 rushing yards. Good news for the Hurricanes. Hurricanes love to run the ball. They have to utilize their running backs and then ultimately play action with Brad Kaya. Missouri versus Florida. Good news news for the Gators. Luke Del Rio will be the starter. He is healthy and ready to play. Running game is important. We saw what LSU's running game without Leonard Fournette did to this Missouri defense. Look for the four-headed monster, the four backs that Florida utilized to have a big game. And this defense, very similar to the defense that LSU has, is very talented. Secondary is very good. Missouri likes to throw the ball. It's going to be tough against those Gator defensive backs. Missouri can score the ball. Let's see what Drew Lock can do. They got to mix up the calls offensively and confuse this Florida defense. Get the running game involved. Booge, what do you think?
Florida has gotten so much hate this past week about postponing and potentially canceling the LSU game. I think that'll be a factor in the game. Like I said with Miami, they have to be ready mentally. If they're not ready mentally, they lose this game. Ohio State, Wisconsin. Ohio State, who have they played?
The mighty Indiana Hoosiers. That's who they play.
Right, the mighty Indiana Hoosiers. Give me a break. They haven't played anybody. They haven't played anybody, in my opinion. So I'm going to keep the cards close to my chest until after this game to talk about Ohio State, because really, we don't know. This is going to be their first test against Wisconsin. This is going to be a great game. Definitely one to watch.
Time for JT Barrett to step up and show people why he has been in the Heisman conversation preseason and beginning of this season. He did not look good against the mighty Hoosiers of Indiana. 9 of 21, 93 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But he did run the ball very, very well. 26 carries, 137 yards, 1 touchdown. And running game looks fine. They're getting Curtis Samuel and Weber involved, but they need to improve that passing game. It will be hard against the number 4 ranked defense that the Badgers have. Over in Wisconsin, quarterback production has been bad.
Guys, it's almost the end of our episode, our second episode. This is our last segment. This is always going to be the last segment. Quick score segment here. We're going to do our picks. I'm going to pick one, and then Z's going to pick one. Z, Louisville, Duke. I have Louisville beating Duke 45-10.
I got Louisville 48, Duke 20.
Alabama, Tennessee. Bama beats Tennessee 42-21.
Alabama 34, Tennessee 27.
Ole Miss, Arkansas. Ole Miss wins 35-30.
Ole Miss 42, Arkansas 34.
Miami, UNC 34-17 Miami.
Miami wins 24-21.
Florida versus Missouri. Florida wins 28-17.
Florida wins 38-13.
Ohio State versus Wisconsin. 43-28 Wisconsin. No, just kidding. Ohio State wins 43-28.
Ohio State wins 21, Wisconsin 10.
NC State, Clemson. Clemson blows them out 52-10. Deshaun Watson all the way.
Clemson wins 35, NC State 17.
Vanderbilt, Georgia. 30-17 Vanderbilt. Think I'm kidding? You're right, I'm kidding. Georgia's going to destroy them. 30-17.
Georgia 28, Vandy 13.
Kansas State, Oklahoma. 42-28 Oklahoma.
Oklahoma 45, Kansas State 17.
Wake Forest, Florida State. Florida State destroys them. It's a blowout, 42-0.
Florida State 27, Wake Forest 14.
Mississippi State, BYU. 32-10 State.
BYU 34, Mississippi State 21.
Hey guys, this is the end of our second episode. This is so exciting. We're having so much fun. We have a lot of, especially with our last episode, that was really long. We're going to try to cut that in half at least. This episode is a little bit shorter, so we want to keep it on this type of time frame. We really enjoy doing this. As I said last week, me and Zach have been talking about doing this for a very, very long time. We just really enjoy sitting here. I enjoy the prep. I love the prep. I enjoy sitting here. We get to hang out. We get to talk about sports. It's something we love to do.
And I really appreciate all you guys that have been listening, and also follow us on our social media. Booj, you want to give us our social media handles?
Yeah, that's on Twitter. It's at ATD Sports Talk. That's at A as in Apple, T as in Tom, D as in Dog, Sports Talk. That's on Twitter. It's also on Instagram at ATD Sports Talk. We also have a YouTube, Agree to Disagree Sports Talk. We're on iTunes now, people. Big news, breaking news. We are on iTunes.
We have made it iTunes.
We have made it big.
Bucket list done.
Bucket list check off. Yes, sir. iTunes, Agree to Disagree Sports Talk with Zach and Booj. Go download it. Go share it to your friends. Retweet us. Tweet at us. Tell us what you want to hear. Tell us what segments you would love for us to do. We're definitely going to get some callers. We got some guests lined up in the next coming weeks. We're going to love that. We have really cool people coming in to talk to us about sports and what they think of what's going on in the 2016 season.
So we're very excited about the way that this is going and the way that people have responded. And thank you so much for everybody that has texted us, called us, seen us around, and let us know that they enjoy it. And then also, like Boo just said, give us suggestions. This is for you guys, also for us just to hang out and talk about sports. But we want you guys to enjoy this. We want y'all to gain insight. We hope that y'all are getting some insight and hopefully some laughs here and there. But just thank you guys so much and spread the word.
Spread the word.
Retweet.
Hashtag.
Repost.
That's another thing. Our hashtag is ATD. That stands for Agree to Disagree. It's ATD pound. ATD.
A is in Apple. T is in Texas. D is in dinosaur.
A is in Alabama. T is in Tennessee. And D as in
Duke.
Duke.